So that is e-governance. Last night I sent an email to a friend of mine. His name is Omar Saif. Omar he's a scientist from MIT, and he has returned to Pakistan, and he's now chairman of the technology board of Punjab. It's a cabinet level position. And I asked him, what are you guys doing? Can you give me an example? And he sent me an email, arrived this morning, so I couldn't put it on the slide, but you should check it out. This is the Punjab Overseas Pakistani Commission website. And they have a real-time tracker service for their overseas Pakistani. And the first thing you see when you go there is feedback from the users, how they think the service was, how did they rate. Coming back to Dubai, so I'm sure some of you know that Dubai 3D printed an entire office building. So they used a 3D printer to print out a building using very few people, and it took 17 days to build it. And that is an aspect of the fourth industrial revolution that can be quite scary for countries that have manpower export. I don't like the term manpower export, but if you use that, if you think about exporting manpower, then 3D printing is a clear threat to that. There's a school kid in New York. Somebody told me about the school kid in New York. He designs iPhone covers. You know, your iPhones have these plastic covers at the back. He will ask you what you want in the design. He will design it. He's 12 years old, and he prints it using his 3D printer at home, and he sells it for $3 to his school friends. So this manufacturing business that used to be done in China, then in Vietnam, has now gone back to New York. And you see this in factories, in manufacturing. Philips shavers, electric shavers, or Adidas footwear in Germany, they've taken their factories back to the Netherlands, to Germany, in smart factories, automated factories. And these are apparently producing these goods at a much lower cost than people have done. So look, I don't want to spend too much time on the fourth industrial revolution. I co-authored a white paper on this, which can be found online if you're interested. There's also a wonderful World Bank publication called Trouble in the Making, which is also available online, and I would recommend that. But the reason I mention it for the NRB conclave is two reasons. One is, if you're planning for 2021, 2030, 2041, we have to be mindful of the speed of change that's happening behind us. And we have to be able to think in a scalable and non-linear manner. And the second reason is that in this world that I've just described, it's even more important that we have relationships and collaboration in the way that we operate, particularly cross-border collaboration, and particularly including diaspora. I would argue that we should be thinking about the way universities, Western universities, reach out to their alumni. Lots of you over here have been to universities in the West. If you think about the way Harvard has a very formal structure with which they reach out to their alumni, that is the mindset that we need. They look at alumni as assets, and therefore relationship management is asset management. I think there's a lot to be done there. And just at a basic level, if you want foreign investors to come to the country, it's the first question people would ask is, how much is your diaspora invested in this country? How much has that grown? It is a necessary condition when you have that dialogue about foreign investments. So before I go to what I think we should do, or a suggestion on what I think we should do for NRBs, I have two messages. One for my fellow NRBs and one for my fellow compatriots who are based in Bangladesh. So firstly, for my fellow NRBs. First point to be very clear about is we are not special people. we can't expect, just because we live abroad, to come here and be treated differently or in a special manner. That might have happened 20 years ago. We need to really get off that horse right now and really think about what is our value add. We also can't be simply connectors of people. When we talk about knowledge remittance, it can't be knowledge that you can access on YouTube, because people here can access that themselves. So our job is to really think about what it is more than the obvious that we can offer, and that this knowledge remittance is a two-way remittance. It's not just us teaching them, it's them teaching us, and it's a two-way circulation of ideas that we should be going for. You know, I was recruiting a few years ago for the bank that I used to work for. I went recruiting in America to the business schools, and I met this gentleman who was doing an MBA. And he was a superintendent of police in India, and he got a scholarship to Boston, and he was doing his MBA. And very arrogantly, I asked one of my standard interview questions, have you ever worked in a high-stress environment? Because I worked in a dealing room, and so, you know, you need to be able to deal with stress. So, yeah, have you worked in a fast-paced, high-stress environment? He said, look, sir, I have never worked on a dealing room, but do you know what it's like to do riot control on the streets of India with 12 officers and 1,000 people coming straight at you? I was rightly quite humbled by that message. And I think there are many other examples where we have to be very humble in the way we interact with our compatriots over here. There are real areas where we can add value. The Chinese diaspora does a very good job of being cultural ambassadors. They're not translators in the sense of language, but they're bicultural. They're able to bridge the gap in terms of cultural understanding. I think we can help with that. I think we can help in helping Bangladesh avoid the mistakes that other countries have already made. We make the same mistakes in our stock market that other countries have made for years and years and years. I think we could have helped, and we can help in that area. We can help in beauty parades. When you go to pitch for business from investors, very good stories get lost because we can't pitch it correctly, and maybe we can help with that. And there is also the signaling issue that we can help with. I'm told that it's not just investment, even for aid, DFID in the UK or USAID in the US, they are going to increasingly ask, when you go to them for money, how much of your funds come from diaspora, and why is that not growing? There's a Commonwealth Summit coming up in London in February, and diaspora engagement is a part of that agenda. The second message is to people over here, my resident compatriots. I think we really need to go back to the basics and ask, do you really want to engage with NRBs? I think it's quite fair when people say, we've done very well, we're proud of what we've done, why should we do things differently? Why do we need to engage with you guys? And that's a perfectly reasonable position to take. I hope that's not the position you take, but it's important that your message is clear and consistent, especially for the second and third generation NRBs. Are NRBs not required Bangladeshis? No one says that anymore. It used to be an issue in the past. I just have to now remind people that the greatest NRB, most impactful NRB right now, any idea who that is? Is the ICT advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister. And he's clearly doing a very good job, so be careful what you say about NRBs. And that's where the solution is, and this is my last message, is what do we do going forward? How do we engage better? How do we engage more? And I think digital is the foundation of how we do better. We should take full advantage of the momentum and the progress that we've made in digital